Is there music, Dave? We'll just talk in a few minutes. There we go. Halftime show. Terry Ford, glad you're going to be hanging. We are going till 3 on the game. David Dare hanging out with us. A little extra hour again today. Elijah will jump in between 2 and 3, and then once again between 1 and 2. We're gonna put the entire station in danger and let me punch the buttons for like an hour. So that's kind of the way we're setting up between noon and 3 today here on the Halftime Show. Glad you could be hanging out, whether you are listening in Columbia at 107.5, again, Florence at 100.5 The Game, Myrtle Beach 100.3 The Game. Listening on the 107.5 The Game app, which you can punch that baby up and stream us anywhere at any time. Or you are watching The Game TV. Hey, what's up? Sponsored by Shepherd's Glass, powered by Integrated Media. All right. It's funny just listening to today as I was driving south, just thinking about a couple things that hit me, and listening to Wes and Chris and Tyler and also Preston. And it's weird how things just flip in a short period of time. Let's see. Let's rewind a year ago at this time. Think about it. South Carolina men's basketball was coming off a very underwhelming season 1 under Lamont Paris, right? Women were coming off that loss to Iowa in the Final Four. Carolina baseball did go to the Supers against Florida, but came up short again back to Omaha. And we had a fan base that, again, the Mark Kingston, South Carolina Gamecock fan base, it was never a wow-loving relationship, right? It just wasn't. Let's just be real. Mark's a great guy. I love Mark, but let's just be honest. And Gamecock football was going into SEC Media Days with a ton of momentum, right? Ton of momentum. You had beaten Tennessee and Clemson. 2 top 10 teams with their eye on the college football playoff. You went, not on our watch. You went upstate there and finished, what was that, 47-game home win streak? You snapped Clemson's deal in their dojo. You went to the Gator Bowl, stood toe-to-toe to Notre Dame for a while with both your hands and feet tied behind your back because you were missing so many starters. You're coming into a season, Spencer Rattler at quarterback, an exciting wide receiver tandem. You were hoping. You knew you had Juice Wells, who had a phenomenal year, and you were hoping Xavier Legette was going to pop. But you also had Marion Brown back. You know, you were feeling really good about where you were going as a football team. Fast forward. So the excitement level going into last year was South Carolina football, number 1. Women's basketball. Women's basketball we sit to the side because it's just an expectation now, right? It's just a high expectation level of Dawn and her squad is going to win tons of games, and they will compete for national championships. That's what they do. Last year, there's supposed to be a quote-unquote reloading season, and they reloaded to going undefeated and winning a national championship. So we pushed Dawn off to the side because it's just, it's not taking them for granted, but you just have a high expectation level of what Dawn Staley's going to do, and it's really the highest compliment you can give a coach in a program, right? I would say out of the 3 other programs that we keep an eyeball on, men's basketball was 3rd, baseball was 2nd, football was 1st. A lot of people were giddy about this upcoming season for Shane Beamer and the Gamecocks going into 2023. Wasn't a whole lot of wow about Lamont Paris and his men's basketball team because that first year was ugh. And you figure it's going to take Lamont a couple years to build this thing up. And there was still some perception in the fan base that this guy was like 43rd choice, and, we'll just see where it goes. And baseball, let's just face it, there was the expectation for the baseball program with Coach Kingston was, they'll have, maybe probably make the tournament, but we don't have a whole lot of, we're not real tingly over the baseball program these days. But it was ahead of the men's basketball program. But neither one was close to the expectation of the football team. Now let's fast forward. Men's basketball team has a surprising second season under Coach Paris. Really could have been National Coach of the Year. The baseball program has now been taken over by a man who has been to Omaha not only with one program, but two, with Paul Mainieri. So there's a lot of excitement about the baseball program through most of the fan base. The coaching staff put together a bunch of dudes who have been to Omaha. They don't need GPS on their phones. They know their way around Omaha, right? So you feel good about the future of the baseball program now. Whether it's just the 5-year plan, the Mainieri, you figure, okay, if he only takes it for 5 years, he should put South Carolina back to where they belong. And I feel that way. I feel if Paul Mainieri's neck doesn't go back out on him like it did at LSU, and Mainieri's healthy, I think South Carolina gets back to Omaha. I think that once you get one of these dudes to coach your team, these guys, they've cracked the code. Because the way you get to Omaha is you have to be able to manage in a certain way. And you've got to be really good at managing in that type of environment and that type of format. And the guys that will just go to Omaha, pretty much almost wherever they go. They know the formula. They know how to manage the postseason in college baseball. Watching it for the 3 years I have, intently, since I've been here, it's even more, because I've always said there are coaches in college basketball that are good tournament coaches, and I think the number one thing they can do is they know how to coach the quick turnaround game. Because it's nothing like you do during the regular season in college basketball. You're typically getting 3 days, sometimes more to prepare. Very rarely do you have a 2-day thing. You're typically getting 3 days. You play a Sunday, you play a Saturday, whatever. You're coming back on a Wednesday or two, whatever. You're going to get multiple days to prepare. NCAA tournament, you're playing on a Friday, boom, you're back on a Sunday. Very quick turnaround, short turnarounds. Not natural to the coaching cycle of college basketball. And I think the really good tournament coaches can coach that turnaround game. I think that's one of the most important things about being a good NCAA tournament coach in basketball. Baseball, you see it, you watch it, you know. You've been watching college baseball for a long time here. You understand that you've got to be able to navigate that minefield of the NCAA tournament. You're going deep into a pitching staff. You're going to have to pitch guys in roles they never pitched in the regular season, most likely. You're going to ask guys to do more than you probably asked them to do. You got to be able to just pull things out of your backside. And I think the guys who know how to navigate that system, that process, they're the ones that are just really good NCAA tournament baseball coaches who end up in Omaha. Some guys are good in the regular season when they have a certain way they're doing things and they're set up a certain way where they're playing that weekend, they're playing a midweek, they can set things up with that calendar. But once you get into the postseason and things are more winging it here and winging it there and off the seat of your pants here and going over here and I think those guys struggle. So when you get a guy that's been to Omaha in multiple places, this dude, he knows what's up. So I think there's a lot of excitement about the baseball program. And obviously, again, Dawn is Dawn, and that program's that program. So I think out of the 4 programs we keep an eyeball on, not to say we don't others, but the 4 major ones we pay attention to, when it comes to, confidence level and excitement, is football sitting at 4th. This time last year it was sitting, again, pushed on to the side, but was sitting number 1 between men's basketball and baseball and football. And this year, if you look at just those 3, football's probably sitting 3rd. People are excited about what Lamont Paris is doing with the men's basketball program and feel confident that that team once again will be competitive in the SEC. Again, people are very excited about Paul Mainieri and what he could conceivably do with the baseball program in South Carolina. getting it back to where it used to be. Now, again, South Carolina football, you come off a 5-7. It was very disappointing. Maybe we overestimated last year because of the offensive line and the running back issues. Maybe we were just like, oh, Shane will figure it out. It's going to be fine. Look what he did, going 8-5. All the tough stuff's over. This guy's overachieved 2 straight years. He's got the goods. And then the 5-7 happened. And you blow the game to Florida. If you win it, you go to a bowl game, and maybe people feel a little different. But last year, left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. Everybody's popping Altoids after last year. You saw what Shane did. It was changing the coaching staff, hit the transfer portal real hard. So you can tell Shane wasn't happy, nor should he have been. And we've said maybe that was because, usually when you're rebuilding a program, and that's what this was at South Carolina, a rebuild, usually it's that first season that you have the bleh, right? But South Carolina made a bowl game the first year. And second year was even better than the first year. So your thought is, as a fan, it's natural. Third year will be better than second year, right? And it didn't work out that way. Fell backwards. And from people I've talked to, just, fans, and I talked to other people who talk to fans, it's almost like there's a feeling of, I don't know, it's tough to describe, but people are just like, schedule's tough. Adding Oklahoma and Texas in the SEC. Shane went 5-7. This recruiting class is not that great compared to the last two. I don't know about the quarterback. Oh, the offensive line, they're going to fix that. Was the defense, is that something to be hopeful for after November, or was that because they were playing teams that weren't great offensively? I don't know. There's a lot more of that, a lot more doubt, I think is the right word, looking into this fourth year compared to this time last year where everybody was so gung-ho. So we'll see. We shall see what happens. Is the schedule easy? No, of course not. It never is in the SEC. And so when you think about the schedule, and you've looked at it, and we've all looked at it, we're going to talk a little bit about it coming back. Brad Crawford from 24/7 Sports had an interesting little take about the early part of the schedule for South Carolina and the ideas about possibly going 4-0 out the gate. Could it happen? And Brad kind of looked at the 2 important games in that stretch, which would be Kentucky and Lexington and LSU here at Williams-Brice. So we'll investigate a little bit what Brad Crawford talked about. Could South Carolina get off to that kind of start? It would change a lot of people's doubt that all of a sudden has seeped into their head after last year's 5-7 as we go into year 4 of Shane. So we'll talk about that coming back. It's a halftime show. Captain Dave is here from moving to his palatial estate over the weekend because no one else would want to move on July 4th but Dave. Maybe we'll ask Dave in the next segment how his move went, how he's doing. Has he been evicted yet? Have the cops showed up? Because Dave gets crazy. Again, when Dave's not here, we don't want to know what he's doing. We think it's probably illegal in 27 states. But anyway, so we'll talk about Brad Crawford. Could South Carolina go 4-0 out the gate? We'll get into that next. It's a halftime show. Terry Ford, that felon, David Adair, running the show for us here for a little bit here on the game. Halftime show. Terry Ford, David Dare keeping us going here on the game as we roll up until 3 o'clock. Take a look at Brad Crawford had some interesting posts, not a couple, interesting posts about the first month of the season. We're going to get to that in a second. First of all, I want to get a moving update. Dave spent 4th of July weekend moving. How many other people do you think in this country spend 4th of July moving besides you?
0.
Probably.
Yeah. 0. It wasn't my fault. That's what they said. They said, your move-in date is July 4th. I said, isn't that a little unusual?
Didn't you say to them, isn't that like a national holiday? And
yeah. And they said, that's weird.
But anyway, your moving day is July 4th.
My moving day is July 4th.
Couldn't they made like the 3rd, the 5th, the 6th?
And then I had a delivery, which was also on July the 4th.
How'd that go?
Well, it was interesting. The guy calls me and he says, hey, I'm here outside your house. Where are you? And I'm like, and so he said he was in Irmo on Black Creek Drive or something like that. And I'm like, I don't live there.
It's nowhere near you.
Yeah, it's nowhere near other side of town, far away as you can possibly get.
How's a guy get that? Yeah, I'm here in Sumter. I'm out front of your house.
But he says, this is what's on the list. And I said, oh, geez, well, I'm over here. So he says, okay, I'll be there in 3.5 hours.
It's a long ride from Irmo to where you're at.
So so he says he's going to come. I said, you can come through the back gate because it's open and it's right there, easy to find. And he goes, oh, no, our company will not allow me to go through the back gate. I can only go through the gated entry. And I said, well, okay, I'll have to meet you up there, put the code in and let you in because the office is closed, even though I'm supposed to move in on the 4th. So anyway, so I go up there, which is right by the pool, the gate, And so I'm standing there, all these people in the pool staring at me like, who's this weird guy standing over here?
And is he registered?
Not doing
How many
anything.
counties is he registered in?
Why is he here? He's looking at our women. I know he is. So,
Which you were, that's beside the point.
Yeah, of course I was. But so I'm waiting forever. And then I see this moving truck coming the opposite direction, heading toward the gate. And then he calls me. He's like, yeah, I think I'm here. Where are you at? I said, did you come in the back gate? Yeah. So I stood there for 45 minutes.
Didn't he say he couldn't go in the back gate?
Yeah, that's what he said. So I'm like, oh, yeah,
You should have said, yeah, I'm at the pool in a white bikini.
So then,
come find me.
So then he's like one guy delivering all this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I thought, do you need any? Well, I thought, like, no, I paid all this money for this delivery. I'm not going to help the guy. It was
90, probably 99 degrees, felt like 115.
Yeah, but I paid $149 to have this delivered, so I'm not going to help the guy. It's not my fault his coworkers stayed out all day.
And you know what? Once he collapsed, I wasn't going to resuscitate him. I paid $149.
Yeah, he was a nice guy though, so I gave him a 10 on the delivery.
There you go. That's something.
I didn't say
how long did it take him to deliver it?
But the wrong side of town or anything.
Poor guy.
Going in the back gate.
Yeah. So that sounded like a fun time, Dave.
No, it was not. Because I'm moving, because I am cheap, basically. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to move all my stuff myself. Mm-hmm. Is that stupid? Is that stupid or what? That's stupid.
No, that's cheap.
No, it's stupid.
No, it is stupid.
It's 149,000 degrees.
It's not like you're in your 60s.
And I'm trying. I have a bad knee, too. So I'm going up and down stairs trying to pull stuff out. And then the person where I live, she calls me and she says, like, are you just like doing this a little at a time? I'm like, yeah. And she goes, well, how long is it going to take? I said, a long time, probably.
But, it'd probably be easier if you didn't have a honey bun in one hand while you were doing the whole thing, too. Just a little help
honey
there.
bun and a Corona Light.
Yeah. Well, that's different. Dip the honey bun in the Corona. It's all good. Sounds like fun, Dave. Is it over yet?
No, I'm nowhere near done. And then you got to go to Kmart and Walmart.
Is there still a Kmart? There's no Kmarts anymore.
No Kmart. Walmart.
Man, did you just date yourself?
Wayfair. I don't know. All these places. Oh, by the way, apparently cheap furniture is a thing. You know, they make it out of particle board and you screw it together yourself.
I used to buy that all the time back in the day, man.
You just, when you're done with it, you just throw it away.
Oh, God, yeah. You turn the AC on, the wind knocks it over. Oh, yeah. I've had my share of particle board furniture, man.
Yeah, a whole apartment for like $600.
Yeah, well, you know, you never knew of this great thing called particle board furniture.
Right. You should see me trying to stuff that in a little small convertible driving down the road, holding on with one hand, make sure it doesn't fly
you know, Dave,
out.
Using that convertible to move probably wasn't a good idea either.
No.
They have these things called U-Hauls now.
Yeah, next time I'm buying me a pickup truck.
Smart man. Or just go on and there's apps for moving people. They'll come move stuff for you. They'll bring their own truck and everything.
Yeah, but you know what? Some of them say that, oh, I can't move a mattress, man. That's probably, who knows what you've been sleeping, you know. You've been sleeping on that thing for years. And
you should say, trust me, dude, nothing's happening on that thing.
And then some of those, like, it's too hot. And there's something called, like, two hunky college guys.
You didn't hire them?
No, I was like, what about two nice-looking co-ed girls or something? You know, but two hunky college guys. What is that? I bet they make a lot of money from
Sure they do. I can't believe you didn't hire two hunky college guys.
No, I didn't.
Little did I know. Once I said, Dave, how was the move? 6 minutes later, you're still going off.
Oh, we filled that time. Time to
yes,
for a break
we did.
now.
Nice work, Dave. Oh, God. Adventures in Moving with Dave Adair here on the game. All right, so Brad Crawford on 24/7 said, what are the chances of South Carolina popping out of the gate 4-0? You have Old Dominion. That should be a win. You go to Lexington, Kentucky to take on the Wildcats, a team you've beaten twice in a row. LSU is showing up with a new quarterback, new wide receivers, you know, new players all over the place, new defensive coordinator, blah, blah, blah. And then you have Akron at Williams-Brice, and that should be a win. Because then after that, you go Ole Miss at home, at Bama, at Oklahoma, before you finish up with A&M at home, at Vandy, Missouri at home, Wofford at home, and at Clemson. So Brad Crawford put together a couple of stats. Talking about the Kentucky game, South Carolina under Shane Beamer 1-10 as a road dog in the SEC. It's not a good record. But, again, beating Kentucky, you beat Kentucky in Lexington 2 years ago. It's not like you can't do it. And you know, Kentucky defensively should be good. A lot of question marks on offense, especially with the starting quarterback there with the Wildcats. So that's a winnable game, but, you know, the history of South Carolina under Beamer, 1-10 as a road dog versus the SEC. Then you have LSU coming in, top 25 team. And then Brad Crawford puts the stat up. South Carolina in the Shane Beamer era, 3-11 versus top 25 teams. So those two stats say, 4-0 might be a tall task. And it could be. Look, LSU's got a ton of talent. Yeah, they're reloading at quarterback. They're reloading at wide receiver. They're trying to fix a horrid, hideous defense. You know, they've had to make some tweaks to the O-line as well. Yes, Brian Kelly's a hell of a head coach. And LSU should be a good team. But maybe getting LSU in the month of September is the best thing to happen before they get their swerve on, you know, get their stuff together. That could be a thing. And again, you could win at Kentucky. You did 2 years ago. So it's not like, oh, my God, no chance. It feels like 3-1 coming out of there is fair. Can you go to Lexington and win? Yeah. Probably you think you have a better shot at that than beating LSU here. But if you go win one of those two and you go 3-1 into the gauntlet of Ole Miss, Alabama, Oklahoma, even if you lose all three, two of them are on the road, and you're 3-4 coming out. You know, you should have Wofford and Vandy in your pocket, and then you need one win between Texas A&M, Missouri, and Clemson. Two of those three are here to be able to get your 6 wins and get yourself back bowling, which will make everybody feel a bit better going into year 5 of the Shane Beamer regime. 4-0 looks like that's a big ask. If you can pluck either the Kentucky game on the road or find a way to upset LSU here, again, the trends say that's going to be difficult if you look at Brad Crawford's post on Twitter. But if you could find a way to rack one of those up and be 3-1 to go into that 3-game gauntlet of Ole Miss at Bama at Oklahoma, then you come out with what you hope would be definite wins at Vandy and home against Wofford. Then you just got to win one out of those three to get your 6 wins. So just interesting. All right, halftime show. We'll come back. Some college football talk. Connor O'Gara from Saturday Down South is on with Paul Feinbaum. We'll hear his thoughts on the world of college football next, right here on the halftime show on the game. What we're talking about, obviously, has been Carolina football. Could the Gamecocks get off to a 4-0 start? What would be more realistic in those first 4 games before you get to that minefield of Ole Miss here and then on the road in Tuscaloosa and Norman? Could you pull a 4-0, maybe a 3-1, or are you going to kick into those that 3-game run? Or are you going to be 2-2? So we just kind of went over that. Also, we're talking about it's interesting how a year changes things. A year ago at this time, fan base is geeked over Gamecock football, coming off an 8-5 Gator Bowl trip, 2 wins over top 10 teams who are trying to get into the college football playoff, wiping out Clemson's long home win streak, having your quarterback coming back, all SEC type wide receiver, another wide receiver with a ton of potential and possibilities, and a lot of veteran players. Looking like, feeling really good about the forward momentum about the program. And now, a year later, going into SEC Media Days, a lot of folks are a little uneasy about the program after a 5-7, or cautiously optimistic, or have let doubt for the first time creep in on what Shane Beamer's doing. Look, I said this after the 5-7, and look, I think Shane's a really good dude, but I'll push that aside because we try to be objective here. I think when you take over a program that was in the shape that South Carolina was and Will Muschamp left, you're rebuilding. Remember that first year Shane was recruiting, and he was recruiting on Zoom. So that first recruiting class really wasn't a recruiting class. It brought you a couple guys, but it didn't build a foundation because of how you had to recruit because of COVID. Then, so you got really a year late start in the recruiting game. But you did go 7-6, won the Mayo Bowl. Then again, 8-5 to the Gator Bowl. So everybody got really, really stoked about last season. And it was underwhelming at 5-7, missing a bowl game altogether because you should have beat Florida. You didn't. That would have put you at least back in a bowl game. And then maybe the thought process last year would have been, you know what? We were hoping for better, but with all the injuries, at least 6-6 back in a bowl game, that's salvaging something. But going 5-7, just people have a different taste. And some of that forward momentum that Shane got the first 2 years has kind of stalled a bit. Have I changed my mind about Shane Beamer? No, I think Shane Beamer is still on the right track. I mean, again, if you have another 5-7 this year, now the temperature on the chair in your office got turned up a lot going into year 5. But if you can find a way to get back bowling, there will be a good amount of folks who feel better about getting this thing, back on the right road. So we talked about that. And now we're going to continue on college football. Connor O'Gary from Saturday Down South was on with Paul Feinbaum, Dave. Let's go with cut 1 from Connor O'Gary. How the evolution of coaching changes in a new college football era, how this whole thing has evolved regarding coaches and the changes. Hit that, Dave.
It is going to be different. It just is. And, Braden, I think the biggest thing isn't so much are you in the playoff and winning games on a yearly basis, because there are very few coaches who will be able to say that they can do that and that's the actual expectation. But it's how much does it sting when you get left out? That, to me, I think is going to be really telling. Take a team like Alabama this year. If Alabama does not make it to the 12-team playoff in year 1 of the Kalen DeBoer era, there'll be a lot of people on the outside looking at this going, wow, this really is a different world that we are living in with Nick Saban off into retirement. And we are looking at now a lot of programs in college football saying, well, man, if you can't make the playoff now, when are you ever going to make it? Lane Kiffin's a perfect example of that. If Lane Kiffin does not lead this Ole Miss team with this schedule into the 12-team playoff, a lot of people will be scratching their heads going, man, he is just not going to get into that tier 1 of college football coaches. So I do think that we're going to evaluate it more so based on how much it stings when you lose as opposed to what you can actually do when you get there.
Interesting take. That is. It's just basically saying, look, you're going to get looked at much harsher if you underachieve. The expectation level in a 12-team playoff for some programs will be like, look, man, okay, there was only 4 you couldn't get in. Now there's 12, like James Franklin at Penn State. There'll be a lot of people in the state of Pennsylvania going, all right, bro, you got 8 more slots. Kind of run out of an excuse there on that 4. You can get in now. The door is open. And I think Lane Kiffin has got even more pressure than James Franklin. A lot of money's been spent. A lot of NIL dough has been brought in by that Grove Collective to put together that roster. You got returnees at key spots. You've got, again, thanks to the portal, you've upgraded your defense. Your offense has never been a problem. Now your defense might actually stop people. And if you got that going on, you should make the college football playoff. That coupled with the schedule that Conor O'Gara brought up. It's interesting. When I was driving back here from up north, I was listening to the college football, the college sports channel on Sirius XM, and they were talking to one of the guys that covers Alabama, raving over Kalen DeBoer. Oh, Kalen DeBoer has already done more media in one off season than Nick Saban did in his entire career. Man, these coaches, this coaching staff, they're actually laughing with the players and they're hugging them and they're, you know, a kid throws a pick, not just the players, but the coaching staff is doing push-ups. And, oh, this is unreal, the energy, the pace. This is nothing like we saw with Nick. And, again, the guy's all giddy over Kalen DeBoer, and that's great because Kalen DeBoer has been a stupid winner his entire coaching career. But let's not forget something. Nick Saban's got a lot of national championships. Kalen DeBoer's got as many national championships as I do when it comes to Division I coaching. So let's not get all, I get it. It's cool, it's hip, it's a fresh atmosphere. You don't have Nick grumbling around all the time. I get it, I understand. Kalen DeBoer is undefeated right now as the head coach at Alabama. And look, Kalen DeBoer might have a hell of a year. He really might. He might be able to be the guy that replaces the guy. Could Alabama make the college football playoff? Sure. Absolutely they could. But I was listening to this and I'm like, and the guy would catch himself and go, look, there's no disrespect to Nick, and obviously Nick Saban's the greatest college football coach of all time and all these other things, but there's Kalen DeBoer and his staff. And I'm just like, oh, okay. Either I know you're legitimately excited or you're just trying to sell it because that's your job, or maybe a little bit of both. But play some games. You got Georgia on the schedule this year. It's not the easiest schedule ever for Bama. We'll see where it ends up. Now, do I think Alabama can make the college football playoff? Yeah. And there's a lot of talent still in Tuscaloosa. And again, Kalen DeBoer has a phenomenal resume as a head coach. He just does. But just breathe a little bit. Just take a breath. Sit with your legs crossed. Burn a little incense. Slap on some of that Yanni, old John Tesh. Slow the roll. Let's not forget, Nick Saban was pretty good at this head coaching thing. DeBoer might be a different guy. He might be the right guy for this time and this kind of athlete, and that staff might be a good fit for the guy that follows the guy. But let's just wait till the games start. But yeah, Kalen DeBoer doesn't make the college football playoff. There's obviously the pressure for year 2 at Alabama would be insane. Insane. But if Lane Kiffin doesn't make the playoff, it's because I don't think there's a coach in the SEC. I think, look, everybody automatically says Kalen DeBoer is the most pressure of any coach in the SEC. I get why people say that. But I don't think anybody has got more of the expectation light burning on them more than Lane Kiffin in Oxford. I just don't. It's a very interesting thought there by Conor O'Gara from Saturday Down South about how we evaluate coaches. It's not so much what they're doing, but if they don't do what we think they're going to be doing, especially in a 12-team college football playoff world. I will pop back in here, 803-404-6100. That is the Love Chevy phone line. Firehouse Sub text line. Firehouse Sub text the hour is coming up next. It's a halftime show. Our buddy David Dare helping us out, punching the buttons, steering the ship. We're going till 3 on the game. All right, time to check the Firehouse Subtext, the hour here on the halftime show. Terry Ford, David Dare here hanging out with us on the game. All right, I'm trying to get to the right spot. Here we go. I'm extremely concerned about the state of South Carolina's football program. If Beamer and company do not have a winning season, I stop contributing to NIL. See, that's the other danger of this. And just in all sports, not just football. Obviously, football is the high profile of all of them. But, I mean, you want NIL money every year. Now, again, this model is going to change. Once the dust settles and, you'll have $22 million or whatever per athletic program roughly to dole out to players. But still, anybody that thinks the NIL is going away, now it might be named something different, but it's not going anywhere. Just because you're getting this money to, be a quote-unquote salary cap, for lack of a better term, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden NILs will be outlawed, because once again, what are you doing? You are now going to break antitrust laws. Because this is another way that, players can make money off their name, image, and likeness. So the collectives are going nowhere. They might morph into some other entity, but they're not going anywhere, man. You're still asking for money. Now, again, this could evolve into these NILs or whatever they could be called, these collectives or whatever they could be called moving down the road. They could be something else and maybe more corporate, Fortune 500 type companies or big regional statewide companies will be more players in the NIL space or the collective space. But it's not going away. And part of it will be asking for you to donate money. And part of that would be, there's some people who are going to give money no matter what because they just love the Gamecocks, right? But there will be a part of this, NIL collective fan percentage that says, you know what? Yeah, these last few years I haven't really been digging it. I'm good. You'll get more money from me when you start winning or being competitive the way I think you should be. That's just reality of this. And that's a thing, like the texter says, if it's not better than 5 and 7 after this year, I might not be giving any NIL money. People want a return on their investment. And in their mind, they're investing in South Carolina football. And if they're not getting the return of the investment, which is winning seasons or at least trips to bowl games or whatever the case, some might not, give to the NIL. But interesting text. I appreciate that. Like always, Firehouse sub text the hour 803-404-6100. All right, now I'm going to say, just to be honest, I don't care about the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. Watching a bunch of people on a stage stuff hot dogs and hot dog buns in their face until they want to regurgitate all over the place is not my idea of good times on the 4th of July as I've gotten older. The younger version of me was I would laugh and be entertained by people making themselves sick for my amusement. But as time went on, I'm like, okay, I've watched this a few times in a row. Okay, I'm kind of done. And I really didn't get into it much after that. So it's just not my bag. I was like right there. I stopped watching it right near the end of the Kobayashi era into the Joey Chestnut era. Now, of course, Joey Chestnut's not in this thing anymore, or wasn't this past year. So a lot of people who were digging the Nathan's hot dog eating contest felt kind of cheated. Here is Patrick Bertinelli winning the hot dog eating contest. Nail it, Dave.
He's been out of it for the most part for a long time, but he is roaring back in a way that very few except me could have anticipated.
Yeah, it is, and Nesper's still hanging tough. 10 seconds to go, but I think Pat Bertoletti's about to have a Coke and a smile here at Nathan's Famous.
4, 3, 2, 1, put down your hot dog!
A personal best for Pat Bertoletti out here in Coney Island. 2 historic events.
Yeah, but he didn't even like knock down 60 of them, I don't think. Old Joey could knock down like 60 in the first 20 seconds. So yeah, it's a tainted win, but hey, not Patrick Bertinelli's fault that Joey Chestnut's not there. So old Patrick wins the hot dog eating contest, but it will have a stain, an asterisk, whatever you want to call it on it, because there was no Joey Chestnut. I haven't even checked the ratings, Dave. I bet you the ratings just cratered without Joey. It's just not my thing. I used to watch it and kind of laugh at the whole thing, but now I'm like, nah, just not into it anymore. It kind of jumped the shark for me. But there's Patrick Bertinelli winning the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. How about the play-by-play and the analysis was pretty gripping, Dave. Might pay you like good 7-8 figures to do the play-by-play on that thing. Halftime show, Terry Ford hanging out with you up until 3 o'clock here on the game. Football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. We're going to get back to, we got a couple different, get some thoughts about the college football upcoming season. We gave you one cut of Connor O'Gara on Paul Feinbaum from Saturday Down South. Connor was talking about how we evaluate coaches now in this new era of the college football playoff expanding to 12 teams. Here's Connor, also on Paul Feinbaum, talking about schools having realistic college football playoff hopes. Hit it, Dave.
We're going to have a group of 5 teams in there. We're going to have Power 5 teams. I'm calling it Core 4 now. I'm trying to make that a thing.
Okay, right.
We're going to have teams in there, like teams that we haven't seen in there before. And, you know, if you've been to a New Year's Six bowl game in the 14 playoff era, in theory, you should have a chance. And so that's what I think is going to be so different, is that you can't say if you're Kentucky, well, we don't have a realistic chance of making the 12-team playoff because, you know, we never got to play for a New Year's Six bowl. It's like, all right, well, your ceiling should still be able to get there, one would think. And, yeah, I mean, we judge those Florida teams and, you know, even some of those Oklahoma teams that did make it into the 14 playoff, but then obviously struggled once they got there. We judge those teams so differently than the team that can, you know, have that one-off type season that does feel historic, that gives you a little bit of staying power. That to me won't necessarily change, but it does feel like, you know, if you're saying like we don't have a prayer of making the 12-team playoff in a given year, if you can't ever get to that place, man, it doesn't feel like you're using your resources like you should be.
Yeah, you know, if you think about the SEC for a minute, the only team, and if you think about the last 15 years or whatever, most of the teams in the SEC have had their moments, right? They've had their years, their times. You know, Mississippi State, you know, they were number one for like a minute or two. Under Dan Mullen, I believe it was when Dak Prescott was there, if my memory serves. Ole Miss this year's having their moment. South Carolina, remember, they played for the SEC championship early new millennium. I mean, the Spurrier years, double-digit victories, 3 straight years, averaging, what, over a 5-year span, about 10 wins a year. Mark Stoops has had a couple of 10-win seasons at Kentucky. You go through the SEC, look what Eli Drinkwitz did last year at Missouri, and it got you in the college football playoff this year. I mean, it feels like everybody, even Vandy under James Franklin, had a little light shining in there for a minute. It feels like if you're in the SEC, you're going to feel like at some point in a 5-year cycle, at worst, you should be competing for a college football playoff spot. Is that realistic? I'm not saying it's realistic. I'm saying that's the way I think every fan base, except Vanderbilt, in the SEC is going to feel. I mean, you know, Jeff Lebby at Mississippi State. Okay, man, you get about a 2-year mulligan, but year 3, let's start winning some games and let's get to a bowl game. Year 4, let's build on it. Within year 3 and 5, hopefully, you know, the goal is you're competing for a college football playoff spot. That's the thought process. I'm not saying it's logical at times, but that's the thought process. You're going to look at your program and go, okay, at some point here, we need to knock on the door of the college football playoff now that's 12 teams. I mean, if we, again, rewind back to coming out of the Gator Bowl at 8-5 and getting those wins over Tennessee and Clemson a couple years ago, you know, a Gamecock fan will go, hey, you know, it's 12-team playoff, had 8 wins last year, quarterback's back, we got some weapons, this, that, and the other. Maybe a dark horse college football playoff contender. Again, that's the thought process of a fan base. You know, Missouri's thinking of going to the college football playoff this year. Ole Miss is thinking about going. Absolutely. There are teams through the SEC that feel like, you know, an expanded playoff, a couple things go our way, we got a shot. We talk about LSU. You're replacing your quarterback, who was a first-round NFL draft pick, 2 wide receivers who were first-round NFL draft picks. You're tweaking up the offensive line a bit. Your defense was, a mess as being kind. And you think, you know, We got a coach that's been in the college football playoff before. He played for a BCS national championship. Even with all the craziness last year, LSU won 10 games, blah, blah, blah. Folks in Baton Rouge go, maybe we're a sneaky little college football playoff team, possibly. So that's just the mindset here in the best conference in America. You don't hire a coach to go, hey, dude, just win about 7-8 games. We'll go to some bowl games. We'll have a little fun. Maybe I can go to my travel agent and get a nice little travel package, roll off to like Tampa or something. That'll be cool. No, you get hired in the SEC now in a 12-team playoff to eventually, in a cycle of probably 5 years, at least be competing for a college football playoff spot. And if not, there's going to be some conversations probably. I mean, certain places, even if you're going, remember, getting to a bowl game, like we always talk about the Mark Stoops formula, right? Getting to a bowl game at Kentucky, who cares what the bowl game is? Just keep those fans interested until Midnight Madness for the basketball team. But is that going to be the same? Is it going to be looked at the same with a 12-team expanded playoff if just going 7-6 every year, throw in a double-digit win season every now and then, is that going to be good enough even at a basketball school like Kentucky? I think it will still be fine because it's such a basketball school. But there's no guarantee because now there's more invites to the party. All right, let's get one more Connor O'Gara here, Dave. One Paul Feinbaum, Connor from Saturday Down South. Very interesting thought. Is Quinn Ewers, a Texas quarterback, the most important player this upcoming year in the SEC?
I think he is, and I think you could probably make the case for a lot of other guys. Nico Iamaleava still crushing the pronunciation of that one. I think he's tremendously important. I think Jackson Arnold at Oklahoma this year one in the SEC with a gauntlet schedule is super important to what they're trying to do. Garrett Nussmeier at LSU is a first-time starter. If that LSU defense is still going to be a liability, there's going to be a lot of pressure on him to put up some big-time points in a post-Jaden Daniels world. But, I do think that there's a case to be made for Ewers because of the variance. And everybody's probably thinking, well, what about Arch Manning? Arch Manning should be set up for a lot of great success. The surroundings are ideal. 4 returning starters on that offensive line. You rebuilt that receiver room in the transfer portal. I think C.J. Baxter is going to be the leading rusher in the SEC. And you look around, you're going, okay, well, this is set up really well for Arch Manning. Why can't you just do what Malik Murphy did last year where he filled in for Quinn Ewers, who got hurt and missed multiple starts for the second consecutive year? It's just not a given. It's not a given. And if Ewers is out there, a guy that's got playoff experience, that has had to handle all the pressure that comes with being this number 1 overall recruit, you feel better about Texas's chances despite the optimism for Arch Manning. So I agree with you. If he gets hurt or if he doesn't necessarily progress and there's more pressure on that offense to put up some big-time points, it could be the thing that holds Texas back from winning a national championship.
I think the whole Texas the atmosphere around Longhorn football is very interesting to me. I get it. Last year, I didn't see that coming. A trip to the college football playoff. I'd be the first to say, I was wrong. Steve Sarkisian, look what I didn't think Steve Sarkisian could do that at Texas. I'll be straight up. But this idea that Texas is now what it was under Mac Brown or Darryl Royal, whoa, hey, not yet. You've stacked 1 year in a row in Austin. We'll see. You got tons of NIL money. You print money with Steve Sarkisian's face on it. That's how much money you have. That's Texas money. Here you go, man. Here you go, boy. Here, have some oil. Give you a windmill. So Texas has got a ton of resources, lots of money. Texas should be a hammer of a program year in and year out. But they're not. We've seen it. We've watched it. Since Colt McCoy got hurt in the national championship game, lost to Alabama, Texas up until last year had done. So, there's no guarantee that Texas is back. I know everybody wants that in college football. But, they're going to the SEC, toughest conference in the nation. Yeah, their schedule is, compared to others, is a little bit less difficult. But you're going to go from the Big 12, where you pulled some games out of your backside last year, to the toughest conference in America, and there are people that think Texas is going to go just roll through the SEC. Not so fast. I'm not ready to buy into that yet. I don't think that Quinn Ewers is the most important player in the SEC at all. I don't think there's a ton of pressure on Texas. If Steve Sarkisian in Texas win 8 or 9 games, which I think is more believable than, 11-1 and playing in the college football playoff, or playing for a national championship, or the SEC championship. Let's say Texas wins 9 games, which is still a good year. Your first season in the SEC. I don't think people are going to be running around with pitchforks ready to fire Sarkisian. I don't think Steve Sarkisian has a lot of pressure on him this year, besides the typical pressure of being the Texas head coach. I think you get a mulligan your first year in the SEC, just like Brent Venables will at Oklahoma. I think the pressure is on guys, if you want to just stick with the quarterback position, like Jackson Dart at Ole Miss, Jalen Milroe at Alabama. Milroe at Alabama, new offensive system, new head coach. I feel like because Kalen DeBoer is so good when it comes to the offensive side of the ball, even though he lost his longtime offensive coordinator, I still think that offense is going to be very Jalen Milroe friendly. Jackson Dart, to me, Jackson Dart's fine when they, play the Mississippi Teachers Academy. But in big games against high-level teams, Jackson Dart has struggled. If you want to ask me maybe what quarterback has the most pressure on them, top of my head could be Jackson Dart at Ole Miss. More than Ewers. Ole Miss is set. We talked about this a little while ago. Ole Miss is set to be in the college football playoff. And so much of Ole Miss depends on that offense, and the trigger man of that offense is Jackson Dart. Of course, you lost Judkins, your big-time running back, in the transfer portal to Ohio State. I think Jackson Dart might have more pressure than, or is more important than Quinn Ewers this year. Just saying. But this Texas thing, I'm going to be very fascinated by the Texas experiment in year 1 in the SEC. I could be wrong. Sarkisian might be the guy. Texas might, go 11-1 or undefeated or something crazy and kick off to the college football playoff and win the whole thing. They have so much talent and resources and everything else. It could happen. I'm just not ready to buy in yet. That's all. That's a large leap from the Big 12 to the SEC, just saying. I really do. As I'm kind of workshopping it through my head, I almost feel like a Jackson Dart is more important at Ole Miss because of the tons of expectation that's being put on the Rebels this year. All right, it's football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. You heard Hardee's. We're doing a cool promotion with Hardee's, getting school supplies into the school districts of Richland 1 and 2. We will be hanging out Piney Grove Road, I believe it's 2 to 4 on Saturday. So you can come in, say hi, drop off some school supplies. I think the first 100 folks will get themselves a little gift certificate or a coupon or whatever it is for a 3-piece chicken tender at Hardee's. So it's for a good cause. Come on out, say hi, drop off some school supplies, and eat some chicken tenders. I believe we're at Piney Grove 2 to 4 this Saturday. And we want to thank the folks at Hardee's for helping out with our idea of doing some good stuff for Richlands 1 and 2. All right, we will come back. David Hale from ESPN, also on with Paul Feinbaum. David Hale talking about the upcoming football season and also the next round of TV negotiations in college football. It's a halftime show. Terry Ford, David Dare's leaving, so he can go move stuff. We'll roll till 3 here on the game. I got to watch how I move now that I've slipped into the producer studio, as you can see on the game TV. Plug in my little earbuds, which work fine. All of a sudden, they're fading in and out. So 1 minute I can hear, 1 minute I can't. This is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do this for up until 2 o'clock. Then Elijah will pop in and take the controls, and I'll go back where I belong over in that host studio. And if you're on Game TV, you're like, well, what are you doing? What's up, Ford? Our buddy Ed Bird is out, couldn't get in here with us this week, so we're just kind of mixing and matching this whole spiel for a few days. So, and of course, next week, SEC Media Days. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell, and myself in Dallas. Jay's finally getting his own hotel room, the diva that he is. So, and Elijah and I were like, look, nobody likes a good fancy hotel room more than I do. But we decided let's go do a little Airbnb right down the road from the hotel in Dallas. What the heck? Save a few bucks. Go troll around Airbnb. Get some big apartment to ourselves. Why not? Hopefully the liquor cabinet will be fully stocked. So we'll be in Dallas for SEC Media Days. All week, Shane speaks on Monday, so we get the South Carolina part of SEC Media Days out of the way quick. We'll be there covering the whole thing, though, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from Dallas. Halftime show and the postgame show, 12 to 6 block, will be live from Radio Row in Dallas. And, of course, we'll be doing reports between 6 a.m. and noon. That's what's happening next week. All right, football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. We heard Connor O'Gary's thoughts on Paul Feinbaum about a variety of topics. About, the realistic possibilities of schools when it comes to an expanded college football playoff. Look, the bottom line is this. A lot of schools will think they now have a shot to play big-time college football games in the postseason. 14 playoff, most of the country's going, he's got no shot. Yeah, you get a TCU in there, Cincinnati, but for the most part, we see the same type of schools. Now there's 12 spots. Yeah, conference champions, you get 4 of those, you get a group of 5, but you got 7 spots. And at some point, this thing will expand to 16. So now you're going, wow, my favorite school got a shot. And like we said, when South Carolina coming off the 8-5 and the trip to the Gator Bowl 2 years ago, with Spencer Rattler coming back at quarterback, you're not thinking about the lack of depth on the offensive line or what are the Gamecocks going to do about running back. Your thought was 8-5, beat Tennessee, beat Clemson at Clemson, hung with Notre Dame in the Gator Bowl despite missing like 9 starters. Wow. Could compete for a spot in the college football playoff in a 12-team world. Not thinking that this year when you're coming off a 5-7. But a lot of schools around the country are going, we had no doggone chance to get into a 4-team. We can get into a 12-team maybe. So we've been talking about that during football here in the 1 o'clock hour. And that was Connor O'Gary from Saturday Down South. Now, also on Feinbaum here recently was David Hale of ESPN. And David Hale is talking about, so many changes in the world of college athletics. But everything is changing and going crazy until 2 teams take the field and they kick the ball off, and then college football looks just like it always does.
I mean, I think we all are a little bit short-sighted in recalling how much the game has changed over the years, too. I mean, the pace of change has certainly been very quick the last 5 years or so. But, go back to the 80s, and the game was different. Go back to the 70s, and things were different. Go back further than that. Go back to the 20s and 30s and 40s. I mean, they were paying players back then. The game has always evolved and changed, and there's stuff I don't like about what's happening now. And, as a reporter, you're in this boat, too, of being in the off season and the stuff you have to talk about is not the most fun stuff in the world. I certainly didn't get into sports writing so that I could go sit in courtrooms on a regular basis. But, again, nothing compares to a college football Saturday. And it's funny because I've talked to coaches and ADs about all the myriad stuff that drives them crazy. And it's sort of the double-edged sword of, like, the Saturdays are still great, the ratings are still great, everybody still loves the sport. So, like, on one hand, like, yeah, you can still go and coach a game or play a game on a Saturday, and it's wonderful. On the other hand, I wonder how much, like, incentive there is to get things fixed the way that I think we all want them fixed, because things are still chugging along just fine in spite of all the myriad terrible things.
You know, David makes couple interesting points. We talk about this all the time. Yes, a lot of these things make old school college football fans throw up in their mouth, right? NIL, transfer portal, lack of loyalty. These players are getting paid. Hell, they were getting scholarships. That's payment enough. And, you know, to some old school college football fans, this stuff's awful, terrible. And look, I've only heard a few say this, but they have. Lost my interest. I've had to be fair, I've had a couple of South Carolina old school football fans say, you know, it's all about players just care about getting paid, you know, transferring in and out. Just doesn't feel like college football anymore to me. I don't know. Just not into it. And look, I understand. Plus, you know, again, the program's coming off that 5-7. I get it. But the one thing that gets you juiced back up again if South Carolina starts 4-0, then all of a sudden you're geeked up for that Ole Miss game. Because winning is the greatest cologne ever. It'll cover up all sorts of stinks. All of a sudden you forget about NIL, forget about transfer portals, and you're just focusing on the fact that your team is undefeated after the first month of the year. Because that's just who we are as fans. But yes, this thing is, you know, changing. And some of it's not for the better. I mean, there has to be a point, at some point, we say it all the time on this radio show, there's got to be some guardrails at some point. And you're not going to get it from Congress, NCAA. Good luck. Keep going. Keep trying. Look, nobody wants to do it. You're going to have to eventually, say it with me, collectively bargain. Whatever you want to give the name to it, you're going to have to involve everyone, every entity that's got skins in the game in college football. You got to collectively bargain, everybody sign off on it, and then you stay out of court. And you can truly put in guardrails, rules, and regulations that can do something about the world of college football to have it make sense, like professional sports. I mean, I heard a guy talking while I was driving back to South Carolina last night. Oh, college football's got a great model. It's called the NFL. Yeah, but you know what the NFL has? These things called unions and collectively bargained agreements and salary caps. And college football has none of that stuff. And college football doesn't want any of that stuff. And to get to where the NFL is, you're going to have to, again, collectively bargain rules and regulations. And college football would rather go chasing congressmen across Capitol Hill. That's what they want to do. But despite all this mess, it's still fun to watch a game. It is. And the other part about the changes, the other thing that I think about, and I'll just throw it out to you, agree, disagree, wherever you want to go. It's up to you, obviously. I think there are some schools, Texas A&M, they don't want rules and regulations. They like the Wild Wild West because it benefits them because they got so much money. Again, yes, the whole transfer portal has, you know, kind of diluted college football of some dynasties. I agree. But the schools with all the money advantages, they don't want rules and regulations. They like the Wild Wild West, just the way it is. So you're also fighting that battle, keep in mind. All right, football in the 1 o'clock hour. another cut from David Hale who, on Paul Feinbaum was talking about the next round of TV negotiations. We're going to fire that sucker up next. Halftime show. Terry Ford, glad you could be hanging. We are rolling till 3 here on the game. What we're talking about is football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. Firing up some David Hale from ESPN, who was on with Paul Feinbaum here recently. And our first cut we played was David Hale saying, despite all the changes in the college athletic landscape, we're still going to watch college football. And we are. College football ratings were ridiculous last year. They'll continue to be ridiculous. TV networks are just chucking gobs of money at the world of college football. SEC and the Big Ten are making tons of loot, and they'll be making more loot. Everybody looks like they're going to go forward and make more money, except the ACC. Anyway, so look, live sports is the thing now. If you look around, ratings are up everywhere. Major League Baseball, who has been the punching bag of sports for the last I don't know how many years. I love baseball. But sometimes baseball just can't seem to get out of its own way. Well, baseball TV ratings are up double digits. Just live sports is the thing. And the funny thing about the baseball ratings, it's not like offense has gone crazy. Last year, the first year of all the rule changes with banning the shifts, the pitch clock, the oversized bags, offense did get better. Numbers went up. This year, the numbers have not gone up. Matter of fact, they've gone down a bit. But more people are watching than they did last year. Like I said, double-digit increase. And again, a lot of that is, we're in a world of streaming and binge watching and DVRing and watching when we feel like. And live sports feels like the last must-see TV. Can you DVR a game or go on MLB.com and watch a condensed game of the Braves for like 8 to 10 minutes and see the whole spiel? Sure you can. But live sports has become the last true beacon of must-see TV where we all get together. Hey, you want to come watch a game? Yeah, very few people are saying, hey, man, I want you to come over and watch The Bear. I'm going to binge season 2. It's just different. And plus, I think there's a gambling aspect now because gambling has become so crazy prevalent across the sports world. That's part of it. A lot of people are doing props and things of that nature. So I think there's a combination of stuff. Obviously, look, fantasy sports has been around. But I think the adding of the gambling, the legality of gambling, and so easy just to drop a bet on your phone, and then maybe you're watching because you want to see if your prop works. I think that is part of I'm not saying that's the only reason. I think it's a multitude of things. We've hit a couple of them. But people just watch live sports. And you're seeing the streaming folks are now starting to check into carrying live sports. We've seen it already with Amazon. We see it with Peacock. Paramount. So David Hale was talking about that in this first cut. Now, second cut on Paul Feinbaum, David Hale of ESPN discusses this next round of TV negotiations, which is it's going to be pretty interesting to see which direction that goes.
I think you're not wrong, and you could pick almost any year and find a reason to say like this is going to be an inflection point, and I think all of them are very reasonable. At the end of the day, I keep coming back to a few things. One is who's writing the checks and what do they want? Because ultimately, I think that they will be the deciders. Our overlords at ESPN or Fox or the title sponsors, and if Apple or Amazon or whoever else wants to get into private equity, whatever wants to get into this and start sort of throwing enough money around to have a say, that will be. Because here's the thing: as much as you want things or we think things are going in a certain direction, it's expensive. Change is expensive often. Certainly is the case for Florida State and Clemson and their goal to get out of the ACC. So I think it's sort of where the money decides, or when the money decides that things need to change. I was having a conversation with somebody about what the future of the bowl system looks like, and they were like, people forget, like, deals with conference affiliations and bowl games and all of this stuff are up in 2 years too. And what does that mean for us? And what does that mean for, the matchups that we're going to have or how the leagues are going to be set up. And there's a lot more change left to come. The long and short of it is there's a lot more change ahead of us.
Yeah, look, with all these TV deals coming up and how this thing's going to play out, and are you going to have a 16-team playoff? But think about the bowl games in general. Everybody, I'm leader of the pack saying, man, I guess too many bowl games. 6 and 6 teams shouldn't be in bowl games. I've said that forever. Kissing your sister shouldn't get you to a bowl game. But the reality is, these bowl games aren't going anywhere. I mean, all right, think about, besides your favorite team, no matter where you went, what team you root for, I mean, obviously most folks here are rooting for South Carolina or Clemson or whoever. Besides thinking of your favorite team's bowl games over the years, and maybe the college football playoff games, how many bowl games are memorable to you anyway? Not even the New Year's Day bowl games anymore. A couple years ago, that Utah-Ohio State game in the Rose Bowl was phenomenal. Utah wanted to win that game like nobody's business, and Ohio State was bored. And Utah, they had a big lead. That thing went back and forth, tons of yards, tons of points. That was a fun game. But you don't remember, like, you're sitting around, yeah, man, I'll tell you what, that Jimmy Kimmel Bowl a couple years ago, burned into my head. No, what bowl games are to me, just me personally, I'm not going to speak for the whole world. I sit on the couch or wherever I'm at, turn on the TV, the laptop, the phone, and I flip around and, hey, oh, bowl game's on. I got a few minutes. Let's watch it and see if it's interesting. We have a ton of them because, again, people will stop and watch them. If you're a sports fan, you're jonesing for some football. It's December. It's a Saturday or a Thursday or Wednesday night, whatever the bowl game is and date. You go, ooh, bowl game. And you'll stop for a couple minutes and see if it's worth your while. That's what we do. And that's why I just think there's going to be bowl games in December all the time. And obviously early January or maybe even late November or whatever. It's content that the TV networks need. And we'll channel surf and we might stay and watch it. Or we might not. I think the bowls will continue on. Because, again, everything's run by TV. TV makes all the decisions. Hey, look, TV has built the SEC and the Big Ten. Crushed the Pac-12. Wiped out football in the Big East. I mean, TV... Look at what TV's done. TV makes the decisions. TV wants bowl games in December. I don't think they're going anywhere. I just don't. So I think that stays the same. Now, we'll see what the rest of this, because I think at some point in time there'll be a 16-team playoff, and I think a lot of people believe the same thing. I think there are going to be changes. I think we're going to see a lot of different stuff to a point, but when David Hale was talking about bowl games, I think bowl games will continue on, because they are TV content for the networks to run in December. And for schmoes like me who love watching college football or sports in general, I'll stop on it. See if I'm interested. But some good stuff from David Hale, ESPN, on Paul Feinbaum. Again, this Saturday, Hardy's doing a really cool promotion with Hardy's, trying to get school supplies together for Richlands 1 and 2. We'll be hanging around from 2 to 4 at the Hardee's on Piney Grove. Feel free to bring over some school supplies, help us out, and also for the first 100 folks who show up, they'll get a little certificate for a 3-piece chicken nugget, or chicken tender, I think it is. So just stop by and see us. That's, again, this Saturday, 2 to 4, Hardee's at Piney Grove. Please bring some school supplies to help out Richlands 1 and 2. We'll come back. Firehouse Sub, text of the hour at 803-404-6100. Halftime show, Terry Ford hanging. They're only going to let me push buttons for another 15 minutes and 45 seconds. Then Elijah Campbell will take over, help us out, get us going till 3 here on the game. All right, we're going to get to our Firehouse Sub text of the hour here in just a minute here on the halftime show. Terry Ford, glad you're going to be hanging as we go till 3 here on the game. One thing we did not talk about, it's been made official, is Georgia has flipped Shamari Earls from South Carolina. Earls went on social media thanking the Gamecock fan base by saying, I have to reopen my recruitment, and Earls, to the surprise of no one, has now committed to Georgia. Is it over? No. If you're South Carolina, do you keep recruiting? Sure, why not? But Earls has flipped himself to Georgia, looked at as an athlete. But Earls has decommitted from South Carolina and has now committed to Georgia. We'll see if that sticks. Interesting text on the Firehouse Sub text line for our text of the hour, 803-404-6100. Guys, it's real simple. He goes, for an example, when Torian Gray, the defensive back coach at South Carolina, closed in on a DB recruit, every SEC school becomes interested in that recruit. Yeah, I mean, I just think that despite who the defensive back coach is, and I know Torian Gray has a great rep for coaching DBs, but I'm sure that's not the only reason that any school will be looking at any recruit. But, yeah, I mean, South Carolina, their record at getting defensive backs in the NFL, especially these last couple of years, under Gray's watch, has been good. And these guys have had different levels of success at this point in the league. But, yeah, I mean, Gray's done a really nice job with the secondary. Look, last year there was a problem. Really, there was a huge problem in covering the slot because you just didn't have that third corner. You were asking safeties and nickels to drop in there and cover slot receivers in the SEC, and it just wasn't working. But Nick Amenwari, he'll get his shot in the NFL. DQ Smith will, I believe, as well. O'Donnell Fortune will get an opportunity. I'm not saying these guys are going to be first or second day draft picks, but I think they're going to get their opportunity to give it a shot. Whether it's mid-late round picks, rookie free agents, whatever the case, they'll get their opportunity. And you just got to land with the right team. A lot of times when you're going middle, late round or undrafted rookie free agent and you're signing with someone, you're looking for that, that right fit where, okay, there's not big numbers in the DB room. I got a shot to stick here. I'm going to have to play special teams, but I'm going to hang. And that's the reality of the NFL, but I think all those guys are going to get their opportunity. Now, you look at Smith, Amenwari, even Kilgore, there has to be improvement in coverage. Amenwari, I've had people say this to me who know a heck of a lot more about football than I do. Amenwari might be a guy that ends up a linebacker. He's big, he can run, you put some extra weight on him. His coverage skills, if he was a linebacker, you can live with that more than you can when he's a safety, especially in the NFL when it's a mismatched league. If you're a safety that can't cover, they find you. I mean, last year in the SEC, I mean, they went at Nick and DQ and Kilgore pretty hard when they were in the slot covering man-to-man. They were, setting up these mismatch opportunities. They took advantage of it. They'll do it even more in the NFL. The days of just that box safety, I mean, there are teams that have them, but it's tough because, the opposing offense they come to the line of scrimmage and the quarterback looks over. He sees that old school strong safety who's really like a linebacker playing safety. Quarterback yells out, we're going to change the play and I'm going to throw the ball to whoever that guy's covering because he can't cover anybody. It's just a different world. It just is. Safeties have to be so versatile, even more than ever. They got to be able to play the run. They got to be able to cover. You got to cover wide receivers in the slot. You might have to end up covering a tight end. You might have to end up covering a back. It's a very undervalued position in how important it is to me in the NFL. And really, it's evolving in importance in college football, too. But, going back to Torian Gray, he's doing a really nice job at South Carolina, developing safeties and getting them, safeties and corners, and getting them, ready to give it a shot on the next level. But the recruiting thing, look, it's just dog eat dog. Whether it's Torian Gray or whoever who's on the recruiting trail. It's a tough business. You follow it. It's cutthroat, man. You're on the road a ton. You know, you got negative recruiting going on from everybody. I mean, even if you get a kid to commit verbally, verbal commitment means nothing. It's the biggest nothing, maybe in sports. Oh, wow, that kid verbally committed to South Carolina. I'm not going to call him anymore. And nobody cares. And especially now. You have a 12-team, you have a college football playoff, you got a transfer portal. You know, you got NIL. It's gotten even crazier. But Torian Gray does a nice job with the defensive backs at South Carolina. Absolutely. And this year, you got one opening spot at corner. We'll see who gets it. Judge Collier, Vakari Swain, somebody else. It's going to be an interesting summer camp to see who wins that corner spot across from O'Donnell Fortune. That's, I mean, really, in the secondary, that's the only opening. And you almost can say, besides edge, safety, I mean, not safety, but corner is the other opening. Maybe, are you going to say linebacker? I think they're going to rotate a ton of linebackers. But not a whole lot of starting spots up for grabs in the secondary. All right. Football done in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. What's trending at 2? Sponsored by Gamecock Traditions and Traditions Fine Jewelry is coming up next on the halftime show here on the game. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Elijah Campbell helping us out till 3 before Jay Phillips is back. Jay and Elijah will roll the post-game show. He's actually came back. I lost the bet.
You weren't expecting him to come back?
Nah.
I wasn't either.
Because once my man gets out of here and he gets out of his circle of life, his 5-mile radius circle of life, you never know if he's coming back.
That beach, a little too much fun.
I mean,
You're lucky I got back.
I was going to say, you went to St. Augustine.
Yeah, you're lucky. Yeah, we're all lucky I came back. I just come back when I did. I could have stayed there for a long time.
I'll be honest with you. I said this to you and our PD for B106, Leo. And you guys are raving about it. I've never been to St. Augustine in my life. And you guys are going like crazy over it. And you're showing me pictures and all that. And I'm like, if I go there, I might not come back.
You might not.
The place is cool, man.
It's like being in a time machine.
Yeah.
Next to a beach.
It's a dangerous combination with alcohol.
And it is definitely a drinking city.
Yeah, that might be. I've said this on the air before. There's two places the younger version of me would not go to because I knew I would not come back. Vegas and Amsterdam.
At least come back in one piece.
No, not come back.
It's not at all.
There'd be no comeback. They go, whatever happened to Ford? Dude went to Amsterdam like 5 years ago. We got no idea.
He's probably in the red light district somewhere.
Put it this way. There are things about Amsterdam that right down the alley of a young Terry Ford.
A young Terry Ford would definitely enjoy. Would be a Dutch citizen.
Would not come back. I'm speaking Amsterdammy or whatever it is. I'm in, man. I tell you what, when I really went over the top and said I can never go there because I won't come back, because I was working with a guy in Seattle, and he was telling he used to go to Amsterdam, and he was telling me Amsterdam stories, and I'm like, he goes, doesn't that sound fun? I said, yeah. He goes, you want to go? I said, nope.
You ever want to see me again?
He goes, why? I go, I ain't coming back. I go there. There's no coming back from there.
You're conveniently losing a passport.
Oh, yeah. That's the same thing with Vegas. Whew. The young version of me would, no, there's no way I'm coming back. I'd have gotten there. Oh, stop it. No way.
Vegas, a lot of fun.
And I think the older version of me, St. Augustine, I'm not coming back.
That's very possible. There's definitely some debauchery to get into.
I was kidding with you. You're in St. Augustine having a good time, and I'm wearing a Kevlar vest in Baltimore. But
you survived your weekend.
That's
I enjoyed
true.
my weekend.
Army crawl into the restaurant. So Elijah's going to help us out here till 3, and then Jay Phillips and Elijah Campbell will take over the post-game show here on The Game. All right, what's trending at 2, sponsored by Gamecock Traditions and Traditions Fine Jewelry. Real quick, I thought this was an interesting post. Jack Veltri, who's been doing some excellent work for Gamecock Central, had a little sit-down with Paul Maneri, the new baseball coach at South Carolina. And Maneri shared with Jack his 3 goals for his tenure at South Carolina. And these are interesting. Maneri, in his time at LSU, went 6-8 against South Carolina, won 2 series. But he's in this piece talking to Jack Veltri. He said, quote, I don't remember there being an empty seat in the stadium. Every time we came here, it was a sea of red. The crowd was into the game. I mean, they weren't vicious or anything, but it was intimidating. Maneri says he has a few goals for his tenure as a new South Carolina head baseball coach. The first one is to bring back that energy that's been missing. I want to bring back that energy and enthusiasm that surrounds Gamecock baseball. Now, yes, there has been a sort of a staleness in the fan base the last few years. And I just feel like the fan base had lost hope of being what they were under the previous coach. I just think they felt like, look, this is as good as it's going to get. And I think some of that passion and excitement and intensity had kind of gone to, go to the game. Hopefully we win. It was just a different vibe. And people who've gone, I didn't get a chance to go this past year, and I was talking to people who went, and they were like, it's just not the same. There's empty seats. That Georgia series, I remember it was Wes. I asked Wes Mitchell, I said, dude, how was it? And he's like, man, there was empty seats, man. The Arkansas series had some empty seats. I mean, for everything I've been told, the old days, that wasn't happening. So now, and we talked about this in the first hour of the show, that the excitement with a guy like Maneri, a guy who knows how to get to Omaha, an Omaha dude, this has a potential to really re-energize the fan base. And Maneri's talking about it here in this post with Jack Veltri from Gamecock Central. He says, how do you energize the fan base? Winning will mostly take care of bringing the fans back. And then Maneri says this, quote, this is not a knock on the previous staff or players, but now I'm going to knock the previous staff or players. It's just, whenever we say that, you know what we're doing? No offense. Now I'm going to be offensive to you. Not try to be mean. Now I'm going to be mean.
It's code for I'm going to say something that's going to sound really mean. Try not to take it as mean as it's going to come
Ready?
out.
Hey, honey, bless your heart, but.
You're always afraid of what's coming after the butt. That doesn't land the plane softly.
Right. So anyway, Maneri says, this is not a knock on the previous staff or players. I don't know what existed. I only know what I think brings people out. When I was in Baton Rouge, I got hundreds of invitations to speak to groups. And I usually did it, and it was a lot of effort. It was a lot of extra work, but I think people would appreciate when you're out there and they say, Coach, we're going to support the program because you're the coach that's making the effort to be out here with the people. At the same time, Maneri doesn't want to be the only one putting out the effort to be involved in the community. He said players have the same responsibility. He expects them to do so. And look, I think it buys you. Look, if you're losing, you're fired. That's just that's the life of a coach in any sport. But when you're out in the community and you're getting to know people and you're doing that extra mile to talk to folks, especially college towns, that gets you a little bit more leeway. That might get you that extra year. Because then you become like, you're out there talking to people and you're connecting with them. And when you make a connection, it's different. It's like people listen to a radio show or a radio station, radio host, disc jockey, whatever. It's one thing to listen. When you meet them and talk to them and they're not a jackass, you typically have a nicer feel or vibe walking away from them because now you feel like you got a little bit more of an idea who they are away from a mic. Now, sometimes you'll meet someone like that and they've got a huge ego and you walk away going, wow, what a jerk. That happens. I'm just being honest. But usually you meet someone and they talk to you and you feel some type of a level of connection. The same thing we're talking about with the baseball coach or a football coach, basketball coach. I think that's what Shane Beamer has done so well here because Shane legitimately loves Columbia and loves the University of South Carolina. And I've watched Beamer talk to people. And Elijah, you know this. You can always tell when someone is legitimately interested in talking to someone or someone's doing it because they're going through the motions because they have to. We've all done it, by the way. You know what? Today, here's what we need to do. You got to go to Michael's with me. And here's what we got to get some wicker. And there's some crafts I want to get. And all of a sudden, it's teacher from Peanuts. Wah, 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 wah. And you're talking with your wonderful significant other, but you're really not listening because at this point, I'm pretending I care because I have to.
Call that going on autopilot.
Yes. You're just cruising. We all have done it, and people have done it to us. I mean, it's just life. But I've watched Shane talk to fans and just folks who come up to him, or he talks to them. And there's a legitimacy to it. There's a I'm being real talking to you. I want to talk to you. I'm not talking to you because I have to. I'm talking to you because I want to. And I know as the football coach, that's also my position to get to know you. Because fans, especially in college towns, it matters. Because they love the university. Either they went there or they root for it or whatever. And they want you to be as invested as they are. It's very simple. And so Paul Maneri talking about that. Second goal that Maneri brings up is impacting young people's lives. We laugh and scoff at that one and roll our eyes a lot, right? Oh, yeah, you want to mold young men. Okay, sure, right. Whatever. You want to win a lot of games and make a lot of money and go find your next job. I mean, we've gotten very jaded with coaches, haven't we? But there are some who really want to do that. They got into it for that reason in the beginning when they were making no money. They were, like, we'll go with baseball. They were out there with that stupid little thing, and they were putting the baselines out themselves and laying down the bags and measuring everything. And they had a love of the game and a love of coaching and a love of coaching young players. So there are folks who really still believe that. Not everybody is a job hopper looking for that next big gig with a lot of money. there are folks who really legitimately still care about the reason they got into this in the first place. So Paul Mainieri's talking about that as well. And he said, he originally thought about becoming a baseball coach. He had a conversation with his father, who was a great JUCO coach. And on the JUCO level, you're not pulling seven-figure salaries typically. That's the grassroots of, you love coaching young players. You are in it for that thing. And his dad said to him, quote, "My dad said to me, don't do it for the money. Don't do it for the prestige. You can't eat prestige. It doesn't matter. You don't do it for the ego or the popularity. You don't even do it because you love athletics, you love baseball, or love winning. One reason you do it, you want to have a positive impact on young people's lives." And that's the second one. The final goal for Paul Mainieri at South Carolina said toughest goal to reach in the article is, quote, "The brain made it look easy for a while getting to Omaha, getting the College World Series, but it's really hard to make it to Omaha. I took 6 teams there. We won 6 super regionals. I also lost 4 super regionals. You're a game away from getting to Omaha. It's a bitter loss when you don't get there. When you do get there to Omaha and you don't leave with the big trophy, that's bitter to death. That happened to me 5 times, so people have to understand it's really hard. But it's doable. Ray proved it. I don't want to say we're going to go do it or I'm going to die trying, but believe me, the effort's going to be there to get to Omaha, and that's goal number 3. I've said this. If Paul Mainieri's neck holds up, he will get South Carolina back to Omaha. I just really believe that. I think he's got the coaching staff in place to help him navigate the transfer portal and the NIL waters that Mainieri has to learn. And I just really look, my 3 years of actually seriously focusing on college baseball since I've been here, I think if you're an Omaha dude, you know the roadmap. And if you've done it in 2 different places, you absolutely know the roadmap. You know how to manage in the postseason. You know how to coach NCAA tournament baseball, regionals, super regionals. You know how to navigate it. You know how to think on your feet. You know how to make adjustments. You know how to do all the things you got to do. How do I use my pitching staff? How do I use my depth? Blah, 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 blah. This guy knows how to do it. And he's got a coaching staff of guys, all have been to Omaha. So I think if he physically can hold up, I think he'll get South Carolina back where they rightfully belong in the minds of every Gamecock baseball fan. So that's very interesting stuff from Paul Mainieri. The 3 things, his 3 goals, was to obviously have a positive impact on young people, get people lathered up again about Gamecock baseball. And 3, the easy one. Or not the easy one, but the one we know, get you back to Omaha. Some interesting things in the sports world. The All-Star teams came out in Major League Baseball. Jeff Passan has a very interesting take on who should be the starting pitcher for the National League in the All-Star game. And a former overall first pick in the NFL draft can never go back to his high school again. And, honestly, you're not going to be shocked. Am I wrong? You're not going to be shocked if you haven't heard the story yet.
If you haven't heard the story and we just tell you number 1 NFL draft pick.
Number 1 overall.
Gets in trouble with his old high school, and I give you a list of 10 of those names. You'll pick out who it is.
And we'll give you one other hint. Biggest bust in the history of the NFL draft regarding first pick overall quarterbacks. Yeah, I would say so. I'm having a hard time conjuring up the name of a bigger one. Yeah, so we got that coming up in What's Trending at 2, sponsored by Gamecock Traditions and Traditions Fine Jewelry. Of course, Gamecock Traditions, your official merch provider, Gamecock provider, Garnet Trust. You buy Gamecock shirts, sweats, socks, whatever. A portion of the proceeds go to the Garnet Trust to help build up the NIL coffers here in South Carolina. We'll come back, hit those stories. What's Trending at 2, halftime show. Terry Ford, Elijah Campbell helping out. We go to 3 on the game. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Gamecock Traditions and Traditions Fine Jewelry here on the game. Terry Ford, Elijah Campbell helping us out, and then Elijah and Jay will take over the post-game show at 3 here on the game. Don't forget, Jay, Elijah, and myself will be trolling around Dallas next week, SEC Media Day. Shane will talk on Monday. We're there all week covering the goings-on at SEC Media Days, obviously adding Oklahoma and Texas and yada, yada, yada. We'll have some fun doing the halftime show and the post-game show from Media Row in Dallas. And what's the hotel again? Help me.
The Omni.
Thank you. The Omni in Dallas. Of course, Elijah and I will be sitting in our luxurious Airbnb in Dallas.
Cutting costs.
That's how we roll, babe. Well, we gave Diva J the hotel room.
That's right. Yeah, we let him stay in the hotel. Right. Not have to get too far, and
we're right down the road.
We don't mind walking a little bit. It's not a bad walk.
Get our steps in.
Yeah, get our steps in. Be able to stay off-site a little bit.
Yeah.
Might be good for the sanity because it's going to be a madhouse.
It's going to be crazy.
Media days are always madhouses. So I'm never opposed to being away from the central location.
That's right. And then you add Oklahoma, Texas, it's going to be even crazier.
It's going to be a circus.
So it'll be fun. We'll be there reporting the goings-on, doing the shows, whether it's on social media, live stream, regular radio, whatever the case. We'll be hanging out there SEC Media Days. All right. So the All-Star teams were announced. And I used to, back in the old days, when if I worked in a town that was a baseball town, today would be the show of who got snubbed, who got screwed, especially if some hometown guys got, left off the team it should have been on. And then it hit me that this is not an objective science ever. Everybody bags on the fans for voting in the starters, right? Well, no one's objective. Look at the reserves. I don't care if it's executives, managers, fellow players, fans, mascots, ball girls, beer vendors, parking lot attendants. No one is objective in picking all-star teams in any sport, right? So I stopped getting all, oh my God, this got snubbed. No, people are going to get snubbed. Now, I say this in Major League Baseball. I agree with every team should be represented. You know why I agree with it? Because, and look, unfortunately, I spent a lot of time rooting for some crappy Oriole teams in my life. And the idea that my favorite team would have one all-star would make me sit down and watch just to see my all-star from my favorite team. One year, the Orioles sucked so bad, Ty Wigington was the only all-star representative for the Orioles. But I watched because the Orioles had a guy. And when your team stink, you get a guy. So I got no problem with that. I really don't. I think it's good for the game that everybody's represented. And I don't get into the snub show anymore because, look, guys get snubbed. That's the way this goes. There are players that won't vote for really good players because they hate them. Took me out with a slide 5 years ago. Hit on my girlfriend once in a bar. No one does this objectively. So I stopped the snub thing. I said, it's life. It happens. In all-star games in baseball, there's this thing. Guys get in on the Lifetime Achievement Award, right? And guys get in because they have a good 2.5 months. It's just the way it works. And sometimes that's not fair. A guy who's truly an all-star level player sometimes gets snubbed because some dude had a great 2.5 month run. Or another guy gets in every year, so he gets voted every year automatically, whether he deserves it or not. So I don't do that show anymore, Elijah. I'm done with that mess. I don't do that one anymore.
You're tired of arguing that Brian Roberts got snubbed.
Yes.
Second base.
He was on pace for 70 doubles one year. It's crap. All right. The one thing I think is interesting is the Paul Skeens phenomenon. I read a really interesting deep dive on him over the weekend. Just talk about why he's been so successful. He throws something. It's a combination sinker slider. It's called a splinker or whatever they call it, and it's unhittable. It's the most unhittable pitch in baseball right now. Oh, plus, by the way, he averages 98 miles an hour on his fastball. But he throws this crazy pitch that's a combination of two different pitches, and it's the most unhittable pitch in baseball this year. To go with the fact that he throws high velocity. And his other pitches are at least of average major league quality. Skeens in 10 starts has gone at least 6 innings in 8 of 10 starts. He's only thrown 59 innings. So in theory, like a Chris Sale or his teammate Ronaldo Lopez should probably be the All-Star Game starters because they've started 16 games. And their numbers are filthy too. I mean, Sale, the comeback for Sale this year has been incredible. And Lopez has been on the scrap heap forever. Former phenom with the Nats. It just didn't work out, and he's bounced around, and he's had a renaissance in Atlanta. But let's be fair here. You want eyeballs on the TV, you don't start Chris Sale. Even if Chris Sale deserves it more than anybody. You don't start Ronaldo Lopez. Even though Ronaldo Lopez might deserve it more than anybody. You start that cat Skeens, you get more eyeballs. He only threw a couple innings, but people would want to tune in to watch Skeens start the All-Star game. Not saying that's right because other guys have had more starts, and you can say, well, Sale or Lopez or Suarez in Philadelphia or Wheeler in Philadelphia. But Skeens, first of all, it'd be fun to see him start. And two, even though he's got a smaller body of work, he has bleeping tore it up.
Wouldn't you love to watch Paul Skeens pitch against Aaron Judge on that stage?
How about
absolutely?
Yeah, I mean, it would be great to see Paul Skeens go up against the best of the American League.
Which is the whole point of the All-Star game.
Yeah, I would love to see the old school, and I know they don't do it anymore, and I get why. I do. The starter used to throw 3 innings. That was it. Starter would come out. We went through the lineup basically like once. He would throw 3 innings. Today, it's 1 inning and get out, right? It would be great to see Skeens go through the AL lineup one time. Just once. You're right. To see
awesome.
See him face Judge or any of the other high-level hitters in the American League. That would be fun.
I mean, one of the most exciting moments of the entire season was him going back and forth with Ohtani, striking out, and then Ohtani taking him yard.
Ohtani hit the yard and hit the bomb off of him.
That was one of the most fun games of the season because it was superstar versus superstar.
And
he's
that's
already
the
a
thing.
superstar.
We have the analytics of baseball has sucked out the high-level star starting pitcher, right?
The carnal fun of a star starting pitcher.
Whether it's pitch counts, innings, the analytics of you don't go through the lineup 3 times, whatever it is. That star-level pitcher that we saw a ton growing up, there's still a few left. There's not that many anymore. So it's fun to watch 2 high-level dudes go at it in a duel like that. So we'll see. No one says Skeens is the most deserving, but it'd be the most fun. Say, Jeff Passan, I want to get to that. How long is that, Elijah?
Shade under a minute.
Let's get Jeff Passan's thoughts on starting Paul Skeens for the National League.
Not just on the team, but was chosen by Major League Baseball, which I think is great for the league to actually acknowledge that even though Paul Skeens hasn't had the counting stats or the number of starts or the experience that some other pitchers have, he brings an element of excitement to this game. I truly do believe that people would tune in to watch Paul Skeens pitch, preferably at the beginning of the game, though there were a lot of people who responded within the industry to that idea of Paul Skeens starting over, say, Ranger Suarez or Chris Sale with, oh, come on, you got to earn it. Well, what I think is that Paul Skeens has earned the eyeballs of people who want to watch baseball, and that is what the All-Star Game is about. It's celebrating the game and just how great it can be. And Paul Skeens, guys, is great.
So far, he's been stupid great. And look, I understand the whole look, I get it. Now, no one's belittling what Chris Sale has done or Ronaldo Lopez has done. And if either one of those guys start, that's fine. But again, if you're going by this is an exhibition and we want to get as many eyeballs on the TV as humanly possible, then you start Paul Skeens. It's that simple. All right, we'll get back and we're going to get to this story. I'll let the cat out of the bag if you haven't read it. Jamarcus Russell did Jamarcus Russell things. We're going to get into that and also the greatest day in the history of the world next. It's a halftime show. Terry Ford, Elijah Campbell helping us out till 3 on the game. know, greatest day in the history of the world is July 8th. On this day last year, gymnast Simone Biles became the youngest person to receive the U.S. Presidential Medal of Freedom, 25 years old. By the way, heck of a comeback, if you've noticed Simone Biles. Remember, she had the yips, not the yips, what do they call it, the circles or whatever that was.
There was a mental thing that kept her from
in the last Olympics, and she just shut it down. There was a lot of criticism or whatever, and she took some time away, got married, came back, and ever since she came back, she's just slaying people. And she'll be the favorite, I'm guessing, to win the gold medal again in Paris.
In terms of greatest athletes and things to watch, watching her jump incredibly high is a lot of fun. I was getting ready to say, I haven't watched the U.S. gymnastics, competition. I have in the past. I'll sit on the couch going, hey, gymnast, what the heck? I'll watch some. So it's not like I'm above it. I never do it. And when the Olympics are on, like my girlfriend was a gymnast when she was young. So I'll sit there and watch it. I'm okay with it. I'm cool. But she also was a figure skater. So guess what I do during the Winter Olympics? You're watching the figure skating.
Yeah. But, Simone Biles, I've only seen the highlights on ESPN.
Oh, my God.
She goes out of the frame. I think I'm telling you, she hits birds. It's unbelievable, the athleticism she has. It's just craziness. So this time, 2022, 2 years ago, I should say, she got the medal, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, again, 2022. 2021, San Diego Padre reliever Daniel Camarena records his first major league hit in his second at bat against Max Scherzer, a relief pitcher, hits a grand slam.
Rare.
Yes.
Now that we've eliminated the scourge of baseball, which is pitchers hitting.
Thank the baseball
Now that we
gods.
finally got that out, it is still fun to see a pitcher have to hit out of necessity and hit a grand slam.
Look,
that's fun.
I totally turned on this as I got older. When I was younger, pitchers hit, it's tradition, it's baseball, it's what you do, pitchers hit. But after watching years upon years upon years of awful at-bats by pitchers, and then when your team, I root for an American League team, and when the American League team would play in a National League city, and your favorite team has runners on second and third, and 2 outs in the second or third inning, and up walks the pitcher, and you're going, go get something to eat. There's nothing here.
Don't have to pay attention to the TV.
And the at-bat's awful, and it was just, I totally spun around a 180 on it. Now, please don't let pitchers near a home plate. And don't let them run the bases. What's worse than a pitcher at home plate? A pitcher on the bases. And the last thing you want is the ace of your favorite team running the bases and getting hurt.
Putting the sliding mitt on the wrong hand.
Yeah, just
messing their hand up.
So I totally 180'd on pitchers hitting. Please, no. We're so happy we got the universal DH. For a long time, I was like, look, I don't care which one you pick, just pick one because it's dopey. But pitchers not hitting anymore does not bother me. Does not bother me at all. A lot of Wimbledon with, we forget how good Venus Williams was because of her sister. Venus Williams was really good. Then she has that autoimmune syndrome that really sapped her energy and kind of took her away from, as she was getting older, took her away from the energy you need to win majors. Venus Williams was really good. It's just her sister was even better. So, Venus Williams on this day in 2000 beat Lindsay Davenport for her first Grand Slam. And we'll get one more in here as we are spinning through the world of tennis. One last one. John McEnroe in 1984 whips Jimmy Connors to take the men's title at Wimbledon 6-1, 6-1, 6-2. And the reason I bring that up is because, first of all, I was a huge McEnroe guy as a kid, but I like Connors too. It wasn't like I didn't like Connors. But they were like the same guy, and they didn't like each other because they were like the same guy. I remember one time there was a match. It was showed the highlight on ESPN when I was a kid. McEnroe and Connors were playing just some match in, I don't know, Dubuque. I'm just making something up. And McEnroe was arguing with the chair umpire like nobody's business. Sort of like, the stuff Connors used to do, arguing with the chair umpire. Well, McEnroe's arguing constantly in this match. So Connors is just standing at the baseline watching McEnroe call the umpire all sorts of awful names. Then finally, Connors is walking around. He walks, he steps over into the crowd, sits next to a woman, and starts sipping her drink. And just sits there next to the lady. And the whole place is laughing. And McEnroe's now even madder because he's trying to, yell at the umpire. And everybody's watching Connors show him up. It was great. But McEnroe whips Connors in 1984 to win Wimbledon. Anyway, so that's the greatest day in the history of the world, sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. This is not a greatest day in the history of the world story. You ever have these... Were you those dumb criminal stories back in the day?
They're the best.
We might have one right here. To set the scene, remember this iconic moment in the history of the NFL draft.
With the first pick in the 2007 NFL Draft, the Oakland Raiders select quarterback Jamarcus Russell, LSU.
Okay. Jamarcus Russell, the former first overall pick in the NFL Draft. A man who, by the way, made what? It's here in the story, over $36 million in his career. Keep that number in mind real quick as we move forward on the story. Jamarcus Russell was fired as a volunteer assistant coach. You were fired as a volunteer assistant. You're a volunteer. You know how tough it is to get fired as a volunteer? Because guess what? You know what they pay you as a volunteer? Nothing. Jamarcus Russell was fired as a volunteer assistant coach at his alma mater. So this is not just any high school. This is Jamarcus Russell's alma mater. Williamson High School in Mobile, Alabama. Why did he get fired? Terror and Elijah? Well, I'll tell you. He's accused of taking a $74,000 check meant as a donation to the school and cashing it for Jamarcus Russell. He's also facing a lawsuit, by the way. Quote from public school officials in Mobile County. Jamarcus Russell was relieved of his volunteer coaching duties at Williamson High School during the fall of last year. And that's the comment. A local business owner, Chris Knowles, wrote a $74,000 check saying Russell approached him about a donation to help the Williamson football team purchase weight room equipment. The school allegedly never received the check, and Russell reportedly deposited it in a credit union and promptly withdrew $55,000. Okay. Can we start with this? You've got $36 million. Or you've got some millions left, I would think. Why aren't you buying the equipment? Can we start there?
That $36 million is gone.
Oh, I guarantee you. Back. And I didn't have time to do this. If you Google Jamarcus Russell and broke, something tells me you'll get a couple of articles. But so Jamarcus Russell takes the check and deposits it in a credit union, then withdraws $55,000. And by the way, doesn't buy any equipment for anybody. In addition to being fired as a coach, Russell is also not allowed to be on the school's campus. According to officials as well, Russell attended an event for the football team last week and was told he was not welcome. Wow.
Stealing from kids.
Yeah. Or taking money saying it's going to kids and then putting it in a bank account for you.
Essentially. Yeah.
Wow. Just wow. Just wow. All right.
What could have been.
That's what's trending at 2 and a little extra side story on Jamarcus Russell. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Elijah Campbell helping out. We'll come back. We will hit the Firehouse sub text the hour at 803-404-6100. Maybe we'll talk to Jay Phillips. Who knows? He's back, we think. All that's coming up on the halftime show. We go till 3 on the game. All right, time for our Firehouse Subtext the Hour. Real quick, though, before we go to that, I just looked up. Sportskeeda does a net worth thing for athletes. I don't know how accurate it is, but they have Jamarcus Russell's net worth, $3.64. No, I'm just making stuff up. $4 million, they say, which is more than I thought he would have. Yeah, that's more than I thought he would have.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Don't know how in-depth the research was.
I know.
Not sure how in-depth.
Yeah, I don't either, but they got $4 million. Another guy with $4 million in net worth, Jay Phillips, hanging out with us. What's up, bub?
Something like that.
Not anymore. Not after your trip to the beach. You don't have $4 million net worth anymore.
Yeah. Floating the whole family for a week. No, we had a good time. Beautiful Litchfield Beach, South Carolina.
Good
no
for
place
you,
like it. So had a good time.
Yeah, we are.
And I'm glad to be back.
Sure you are.
As far as you know.
And Elijah's happy to have you back.
As far as I know.
We had Mike and Mike hanging out in here.
We did our own
Yuva
version
and
of Mike and
Gillespie.
Mike.
That's funny. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, Yuva was taking some shots at two of the three of us.
Yeah, something like we're
it doesn't rhyme with Elijah.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, obviously like Jay and Terry. What did he say? I saw it. I can't remember.
He just wants to guest host with us on a full show. So we'll all right. Well, I'll take him up on it at some point. Elijah's got to go on vacation.
I got a great idea. Why don't you take him up on that for? Let me know how it goes.
All right. How are you?
I'm doing good. Oh man, doing good. I'm glad you're here because last time I checked, you liked the Braves a little bit.
A little bit.
Texter on the Firehouse subtext the hour 803-446-6100 says absolutely start Paul Skeens in the National League. Now, because here's the thing, you have two pitchers on your favorite team staff who could legitimately start in Lopez and Sale. Both are great stories, by the way. In a year where it seems like every Atlanta Brave pitcher would take the hill and walk off of it, carrying his arm in a cart. The fact that Sale has come back from constant injury and Lopez,
he's been brilliant.
Who went from a prospect to a journeyman forever, has been what he's been.
Lopez hadn't been a regular starter in 5 seasons.
Yeah, great stories, both of them.
Yeah.
But if you want eyeballs, you start Skeens.
I agree, and he's not going to throw more than an inning anyway. So.
And that's what we were talking about. You're really old, like me. Remember when the starting pitcher would throw 3 innings in the All-Star game, go through the order one time, and then go sit down?
Sure, I
do miss that.
I get envious when I hear like the super old timers talk about how they played the whole game.
Yeah, sure.
Which is the way a baseball game should be played.
I mean,
all I can think of now, and I say this all the time, all I can think, when I think, if you say the words Bud Selig, all I can think of, the only image in my head is Bud Selig doing his hands, like doing the shrug guy, when they realized that they had to make the All-Star game a tie because they ran out of players. And it's like, well, this is what happens when you put all the players in.
Yeah, it's like you can't have everything, right?
You just don't do that.
If you want to make sure everybody plays, which again, if that's the road you want to take, that's fine.
Then rewrite the rule to put them back in the game.
Right. Yeah. Again, we're not having a Mensa meeting here because none of the three of us would be allowed in, right?
This is why, really, I'm serious about this. All-Star games need to go the way of the dodo.
Yeah, when's the last time? Because I don't know about you, Elijah, because you're just a couple years younger than Jay and I. When we were younger, the baseball All-Star game meant something.
Yeah.
And it was the thing. You would go out of your way to make sure when you were young to watch the Major League Baseball All-Star game.
Yeah.
When's the last time you felt that way about the Major League Baseball All-Star game?
Oh, geez.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know.
I know. I'm the same way.
Maybe 20 years ago. Yeah. I doubt it then.
Last time I really was on it was in 97, I think, and the Orioles had like 15 starters. And that's the last time
was a great year for Baltimore.
I was really invested.
Elijah, what year did they go to the World Series thing for the All-Star game? What year was that? Either one of y'all remember?
Well, that was right after the tie, the mess with the tie.
Okay.
And remember, Bud Selig met with his board of Hall of Famers. And this was unacceptable. The All-Star game was a tie. So to make sure that never happened again, what you and I talked about is what they should have done. You can bring guys back in the game. No, now it's going to matter for home field in the World Series, which was the dumbest decision of all dumb decisions
in the history of
sports.
dumb decisions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awful.
All right, well, whatever year that was, so like go back a couple of years, and that's
early
probably
2000s.
Okay, that's when I maybe. But the last time I cared, probably going back to high school and college.
Yeah, same here.
Like I feel like the All-Star game for me peaked the year Fred Lynn hit a grand slam.
I remember that.
That was like 84, 85.
He was an angel when he hit that grand slam, wasn't he?
I think so, yeah. Not yet.
Yeah.
He had left Boston.
I think he was an angel when he hit that grand slam.
So
yeah, I sound with.
But All-Star games now, I want to care, but I don't. But I don't.
I don't.
I for baseball at least.
I don't care for any of them.
The Pro Bowl,
thank God that's gone.
NBA All-Star game, I just want to finally see some team hit 200 points.
Yeah, I mean, here's my thing.
You know,
like I think I would like the hockey, the NHL All-Star game more because you get to see actual tons of goals and tons of skill in the NHL All-Star game.
They should do it without helmets.
That'd be good too. Remember those guys skating around the ring, cauliflower ear, missing teeth? That's an all-star game, Jay Phillips. What do you got coming up?
A lot of football talk.
All right, Jay Elijah coming next. Thanks. Do not forget, starting this weekend and for 3 straight weeks, we will have set up for different Hardee's locations, trying to help out school supplies for Richlands 1 and 2. This weekend, Saturday, 2 to 4, we will be at the Piney Grove location for Hardee's. So, again, we'll be doing this for 3 straight weeks. Bring out school supplies. The first 100 folks that show up each week will get themselves a little certificate for a 3-piece chicken tender deal from Hardee's. So, again, that's starting this Saturday and 3 consecutive Saturdays. We'll be at different locations, at Hardee's locations around the Midlands to help out Richlands 1 and Richlands 2. Again, that's coming. We want to thank our friends at Hardee's for doing that with us. All of our stations here in the cluster are jumping in to help out. Again, Richlands 1 and 2 school districts, we're trying to get some school supplies, and we're doing it through the Midlands and Hardee's locations. Post-game show next here on the game.